What's up, y'all? It's your boy KRS, and today I'm bringing you the ultimate definitive guide for Frost Death Knight and The War Within Season 1. This spec is looking incredible, both for Deathbringer and the Riders of the Apocalypse. I have 3 different builds to show you guys. One has dual wield, and the other 2 a two-hander. One I would say is probably the most ideal for two-hander because of the Riders of the Apocalypse is really strong right now. But this, I'm gonna start and work my way up from weakest to strongest, as far as I see it. I've tested this pretty extensively in BGs, arenas, 2s and 3s skirmishes. I'm always being top damage, for the most part, holding roughly 5, 6, 700k damage. Regardless of the spec, I think Riders of the Apocalypse have the bigger burst, but Deathbringer has modifiers which work on your obliterate that are really strong. So I'm going to show you. So instead of doing like a blinding sleet go right off the bat, here's how this is going to work with this two-hander build. I'm not going to pop any cooldowns like Frostform Sphere because of just how it affects everything else. But basically, let's say I pop this. That's going to last for about 10 seconds on the target. And that's going to explode. Okay, so now I have Exterminate. So I'm going to blind, start my go. I have it again, but I'm going to hold it back. I'm going to wait until Pillar of Frost is back on a 15-second cooldown, or about 10 seconds are left, so I can start my next go. And I'm running the Frost Fever build with this, or the Frost Fever thing that reduces its time affected on the target by 50. Frost Fever deals its damage in half duration, so it actually gives you 10 more runes. Make sure you don't need anything else. 11 seconds makes your damage do a ton of damage. And you have your Razorist debuff on everything as well. So I'm going to start this again. I'm going to press this ability. I have Reaper of Souls on the target right now. This is dealing a ton of damage. And it actually helps with physical damage as well. I believe it's 5% physical damage is done to you. Okay, so now I'm going to pop my burst. Start going. First, my runic power is a little slow at the moment. Now we're going to just dump. But I think with haste, this build will get a lot more synergy. Now here's kind of what I'm seeing. Reaper's Mark, it is hitting pretty damn hard in PvP. Exterminate, I've found, hits about roughly the same. Wave of Souls is probably one of your top damaging abilities. Blood Fever, it's basically just your Frost Fever. It actually makes your Frost Fever hit really hard, along with everything else that you're doing. Wave of Souls, it's basically like these are 2 dots. This is a dot. Everything you're pressing is pretty much a dot. Frost Strike is doing a decent amount of your damage. I'd say anywhere from 5 to 6% of your damage, depending on what talents you're running, or if you're running dual wield. Now I'm going to go into the dual wield tree, which is basically the Frost equivalent of. We're going to do a ton of sustained damage. Same sort of priority, but we switch things up a little bit. Basically, with this one, what this is we're still running this Wither Away. I think as the expansion gets a little more crazy, we get a little more killing machines. This could actually see some play, but it's still a 25% chance. It's not very much. Wither Away, it just makes your Frost Fever damage actually ridiculous. and it actually gives Rage of the Frozen Waste some value because you're always going to be using Obliterate, and then it's generating runic power, so you can always dump, and it helps make you a little more tanky by getting more Frost Strikes in, actually more than Unholy, because your Frost Fever has a chance to generate runic power. So that is one lovely thing about Frost. I know Unholy does have that too, but it is... But with this talent build, it's just everything with this. It's just about doing as much sustained damage with the dual wield build. Dual wield, I find it does a lot more sustained damage. So I've kind of been playing with these two talents here. I like the big one for dual wield because it does give you a lot more burst. So I'm just going to go ahead, pop it. It hits everything in front of you. Okay, it's about to fall off. I'm going to start doing some big dam. And it feels like with Frost, you do tend to, or dual wield, you tend to get a lot more sustained damage. And with everything else, with getting Howling Blast back more, with the Rage of the Frozen Champions, you're also having more power overall. And with dual wield, you're actually getting more of your Bone Grinders back, which feels really, really good. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my cooldowns again. We're going to get some runes back before we go nuts. We're going to pop everything. Boom. Alright, let's take a look at that damage. So, I believe that the Reaper's Mark is high in PvE. I think it is nerfed in PvP. But it is still doing a big part of your damage. Howling Blast, yes, it's not hitting like a Mack truck like Obliterate is, where it's actually able to hit, even with the wield, it's hitting for, I would say, 500-600k on your cooldowns with dual wield, or a million with two-hander. But you are also getting more of them consistently. So that is one thing to think about as well, because you're just dumping more and more runic power and getting those Frost critical strikes in there as well. Even though there's not that many on here. But your auto attacks, you have 2 one-handers. You also have the availability. So there's 11 crits right there to get everything else. And with those critical strikes, this is affected Ice Death Torrent, which it's for 100k, let's say. 150 with the modifiers on the gear. As you can see, it did about 3% of my damage. Glacial Advantage, another 2.7. We had some Soul Reapers in there. Avalanche is 1.7%. Blood Fever is 1.8. Frost Fever is probably going to be your top damage with this build. And that's the reason with going Howling Blast. You can also just do this. Just go into Frigid Executioner, because it is a 15% chance to get 2 runes back, which is also really good, and increases the damage Obliterate by 15%. But I just like having much more runic power. It just feels a lot better. But you might not need it, just because you are cutting the time for your Frost Fever in half, which feels really, really good as well. Deathbringer is actually feeling probably like one of the best AoE and one of the best single target hero talent trees, and just how it interacts with everything else. It feels really good in the Frost tree, especially with the Blind Sleek Go, and triple stunning them into silence on the healer. There's just so many different things, and if you get a Soul Reaper in there, that could actually hit for let's say 500k ish, 600k, depending if it crits or not, 700k. I'm not sure how the scaling is on on that yet, on how hard that would hit, because I haven't really played Deathbringer a whole lot with all of the buffs that you have with Deathbringer, because you're not running Razorus on your weapon. So here's what I'm doing with dual wield. You're running Rune of the Stone Skin Gargoyle, increases all your stats by 6% and increases your armor by 6%, so it makes you a little bit tankier, gives you more stats, more HP, makes those death strikes a little bit better, and obviously Rune of the Fallen Crusader on the main hand or offhand, it doesn't really matter. You get, let's see, you get your, from here, consuming glacial, or consuming killing machine fires glacial advance through your target. And Avalanche puts a Razorus stack on them. So you're just endlessly cleaving. So that's kind of why I like the Rage of the Frozen Waste. You just build that up much quicker. And it doesn't feel like if one target's over here, you know, let's say, I feel like I can get my stacks on that on this target roughly in the same amount of time. And let's say if I want to grip the target in over here, you know, I can bring them into the fray, debuff them with one stack, or swap and start hitting that other target. And if I'm over here hitting this target, I can reapply my Frost Sphere onto the target and still have all my stacks on them from a Rhyme proc. And with the 45% chance, it doesn't feel like you get it so much, but it feels really good to get it all the time, even though your Howling Blast isn't doing an insane amount of damage, but over the course of the game, it does just apply more and more damage. And with the way that Deathbringer works, it just buffs your overall damage, and it just, the 45-second, you can bring that down to 30, so you can run it with everything else. It feels really good. So I'm going to talk about the big two-hand go. This makes your obliterate damage terrifying. I've had games where BGs, 2s, 3s, where I just end up doing like 1.5 million damage in one go. So basically, let's assume that, you know, we're just starting off. We don't have anything on them. We're going to D&D, blind, or blind and then death, you know, death and decay. We're going to use our Remorseless Winter. We're going to stun everything. And then it's just going to go boom, boom, boom. That was a little sloppy, but you can see where this is just crazy damage. So, obliterate, it's all hitting really hard. Undeath is hitting hard. But this is also another modifier on your obliterate. Hitting for 500k, so let's say obliterate average 900k, average 355k. What else is there? Inexorable Assault, that's another 60k plus. Glacial Advance for another 157k. So let's say 1.2, 1.3 million on your go. Plus Chill Streak is in there. All your other little pet things are in there. All your 4 horsemen are doing that. And you have that burst every other go with slappy hands and everything else. You are just dealing a pile of damage. You do buff your disease damage by 10% and your frost strike damage. One thing that I do not like about Rider of the Apocalypse is one thing here with Frost. Every 50 runic power you spend extends the duration of the combat. Horsemen aid in combat by 1 second up to 5 seconds. I kind of prefer, while you have 2 or more horsemen aiding you, your runic power spending abilities deal 20% more increased damage. It just makes your frost strikes that much harder. And even with Unholy, it makes your death coils just hit that much harder, which feels really good. I don't care about getting them extended for another 5 seconds, because I'm in it to win it. I want to do as much damage per global as I can every time. So, you know, if my frost strike's going to hit 20% harder and I have all this extra strength, I've got my weapon proc, I've got my proc trinket or unused trinket, I just want to deal as much damage as I can in a few globals and kill something. Um, I think Frost is sitting S tier, probably middle of the pack S tier. There's a lot of strong classes at the moment. Um, Frost or Unholy, not entirely sure yet because Frost does have its weaknesses and its strength over Unholy. Unholy has better sustain still over Frost, depending on what kind of hero talents you take. Now, if you do go dual with Deathbringer, you can actually have quite a bit of sustain with Frost. Um, the Horseman is definitely more of a burst sort of class, and the sustain can be really high as well, but it's kind of an odd one, I think, in my opinion. I find I still do a lot of damage with everything either way. Of course, with this, it doesn't add an extra keybind to what you're already doing, so it does feel pretty good. And they just deal way more damage, and the modifier on your Obliterate, and it's hitting everything because it's in Death and Decay. You can see where 10.6 million plus Undeath plus this, and your Glacial Advance, where you can see where this whole thing, you're just going to be doing way more damage all the time. But that's kind of the Frost guide I have for you. The 3 builds, I'll put them down in the description down below. Y'all have a good one, and I hope you all enjoy your Frost Death Knight in the coming games and season. Y'all have a good one. See ya.